Console is not a feature of the JavaScript programming language. Now, when you're working with JavaScript applications, you can do things like console.log, which is quite common, console.error, console.info, console.one, console.count. There are so many methods on the console object that you can use for various purposes. But that console object does not come from JavaScript. That console object is exposed through an API that comes from the environment in which JavaScript is being executed in. Now, when you use JavaScript in a browser environment, there are a couple of APIs that are exposed, as well as a NodeJS environment. This environment exposes a couple of APIs to JavaScript, including the console API, which then makes it possible for JavaScript to use the console object and call whatever methods it wants to call from that object. Now, I have a different video where I talked about how browser APIs empower JavaScript to do a lot of stuff on browsers or on web pages. I'll leave a link to that video in the video description below so you can check it out. In that video, I went more into detail on browser APIs and NodeJS APIs. But in this video, I want to just focus on the console API. So now let's look at the console API that comes from browsers. If you go to the MDN docs and you go to the web APIs documentation, you can see a couple of APIs that are exposed on the web or exposed on browsers. You can see the battery API, which allows you to do battery stuff in your JavaScript application that is being executed on a browser environment. You can also see the clipboard API, which allows you to be able to copy to clipboard and paste from clipboard. It's not because clipboard is part of a JavaScript feature, it is because it is exposed through an API from the browser. And there are a lot of APIs here if you check this documentation, but let's go to the one that we are more interested in, which is console. Here you are. This is the console API. You can see that this API provides functionality to allow developers to perform debugging tasks such as logging messages and so on. If we scroll down to see the console reference, you can see that this object exposes a couple of methods from assert to clear to count reset to debug to dar, and a lot of them. So the reason why you're able to do console.log, console.any of the methods that you're using is because the browser as an environment for JavaScript exposes the console API to JavaScript so it can use it. But also when you run JavaScript in a Node.js environment, a console API is also exposed. Let's check it out. And this is the Node.js API documentation. You can see a couple of APIs exposed here, from assertion testing to async hooks to buffer to file system. So the reason why you're able to do things in a file system in a JavaScript application that is being run on a Node.js environment is because the Node.js environment exposes the file system API. That's why you can read files, copy files, delete files, or do whatever you want to do with files. It's not because the file system is part of JavaScript as a programming language. No, it is because the Node.js environment exposes this file system API. But let's go to the API we're more interested in, which is the console API. Here it is. On this console API, you can see there are a lot of methods here, from console.clear, count reset, debug, group. There are a lot of them. So the reason why you're able to do console and call whatever methods from that object in a Node.js environment is because that environment exposes the console API to JavaScript. But Node.js is not the only environment for JavaScript. Even Deno is an environment for JavaScript. I don't know if you pronounce it Deno or Deno. I'm just going to call it Deno. But let's check the Deno APIs. So here we have the APIs that are exposed to JavaScript in a Deno environment. You can see a couple of them here, from Cache API, encoding API, fetch API, also file system API, which will allow JavaScript to be able to do something with the file system. But let's go to the one we are interested in, which is the console API. If I click this and I go to console, this is the console API. So the Deno environment exposes this console object to JavaScript, and that is why in a Deno environment you can do console.assert, console.clear, console.count, console.count reset, console.table, console.time, and console.a lot of things. So you can see how all of this environment exposes a couple of APIs, including the console API, which then allows you to be able to do console or whatever method in your JavaScript application. Console is not inbuilt in JavaScript. It is exposed to JavaScript through the environment. Now, one question you may have is, how then do you know what is inbuilt in JavaScript, and how do you know what JavaScript is able to do through an API? Well, this is where we can use the ECMAScript specification. Let's check it out. And this is the ECMAScript 2015 language specification. This is a specification upon which JavaScript is built, and this is the ES6 specification. And if you go through here, you can see some of the standards of this specification, from the type, primitive value, string object, number value. If we keep scrolling, you can see the to boolean, to number, to integer. If we keep going down, you can see things like, I'm trying to see something that would be very familiar. Yeah, you can see something like the this keyword. You can see array initializer, object initializer. You can see a couple of things in this specification. Now, this specification defines the standard through which you can know what is inbuilt in JavaScript. So let's say we try to to search this page for something like console. You see, by searching console, it shows no result, which shows you that console is not part of the specification. So if you're ever in doubt and you want to know what exactly is an inbuilt feature in JavaScript, you can use the ECMAScript specification. But apart from that specification, apart from those things inbuilt into JavaScript, all the other things that JavaScript is able to do, like making API requests, Bluetooth or clipboard or file system or console, is through the power of APIs that comes from the environment in which JavaScript is being executed. So I hope this helps you understand the JavaScript language more, and also helps you to see how browser APIs, NodeJS APIs, Deno APIs empower JavaScript to do more than it can actually do. The video I referenced earlier about browser APIs and NodeJS APIs, I recommend that you check it out. You can watch the video by clicking it here. I hope it shows on the screen. But aside that, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, and as well subscribe for more simplified videos on JavaScript like this.